Thank you all for joining us here at I-80 Sports, where today we are talking about a certain someone's record-breaking day yesterday, as well as other news and notes around the NHL. Thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Make sure that you check out our website down below, i80sports.com, where you can find many videos coming up. Hey, the NFL draft is coming up next week, and we've had a whole crew of people talking about and projecting the top overall picks in that upcoming draft. So if you're a fan of the NFL, you definitely want to check that out, as well as other college football news and notes around. We also just got wrapped up with a MLS breakdown for the upcoming season, so you definitely want to check that out as well. And hey, while you're there, check out some of our previous NHL videos. That's why you're here today. So make sure to check out our previous videos there. And of course, since you're already here on YouTube, if you could join us in the conversation down below by commenting, and while you're down there, you might as well like and subscribe as well. Make sure you do all of those things. Always helps us out. And of course, make sure, as usual, to drop a follow at I80_sports NHL. That is our Twitter, where we are still on the road to 1,000 followers. We would love to see you hop aboard and be a part of that inaugural 1,000. I will learn to speak sometime by the time we get to 1,000. It's going to be amazing. But as per usual, I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, how you doing this week?
Doing well. After being, kind of down for a year, finally attended some live sporting events this past weekend. Ran into Bob at the Red Bulls home opener on Saturday night at Red Bull Arena. Not to our MLS guys. The Red Bulls didn't get off to a good start. And I don't know how good they're going to be this year, but I'm going to leave that to them because I'm as invested as them as they are, but they know a lot more than me about that. And then was at the Ranger Devil game on Sunday afternoon. So I figure if they're not going for a year, why not go to those sports events on back-to-back days? It was a good weekend for yours truly here. So let's start this off, and we got light stuff to talk about, but good stuff to talk about today.
Definitely. It sounds like you had quite the eventful week. I'm pretty jealous actually that you got to check that out. But hopefully the world is starting to slowly heal, get back to normal. Everything's starting to get back in place, and hopefully everybody's being safe while doing so. Make sure that you're safe out there as well. But let's get into our news and notes around the NHL. And hey, I think this might be one of the first times I'm wearing this uniform. Actually, the last time I wore this uniform was for the Shark season episode, which was way back in 2020. So if you want to check out that video and what we had there, check out that video. That was the last time I wore this uniform, and actually really didn't fit well. It barely fits now, but at least fits a lot better. But the reason why I'm wearing this uniform, you might know a certain player that's been talked about all week. His name is Patrick Marleau, and he just broke a very, very huge, long-standing record, and that record being the most games played in the NHL, previously held by former Red Wings player Gordie Howe. So Patrick Marleau has now played in his 1,768th game. And it is quite amazing. It is an amazing feat. It's an amazing testament to longevity. And before we dive into our thoughts on Patrick Marleau and his legacy and his overall, what he's brought to the NHL in general, I'm just going to give you some fun facts real quick. And I mean like fun facts like about Patrick Marleau. These were just some interesting things that I read over the course of the week from various people. So the first fun fact, point-wise and goals and assist totals over the course of his career. So in 1,768 games played, Patrick Marleau has 566 goals, 630 assists, which is good for 1,196 points, which means that by season's end, he could very well be at 1,200 points total for his career, which is Hall of Fame worthy in and of itself. His longest teammate that he ever played with was, in fact, Joe Thornton. And it's interesting that Joe Thornton is the player that he's played with longest. So first of all, he's played over 950 games alongside Joe Thornton. He played for 12 years with Joe Thornton. But the most interesting thing was Patrick Marleau was the number 2 overall pick by San Jose in 1997, and Joe Thornton was the number 1 overall pick from 1997. So that is the most games played by teammates who were picked number 1 and 2 overall. That is definitely going to be a statistic that's probably going to stand up for all time, and that's also probably one of the most obscure statistics ever. But hey, what's that? You want to hear more obscure statistics? Let's get into that. There have been 863 skaters who have played in the NHL this season. 163 of them were not even born when Patrick Marleau played his first NHL game on October 1st, 1997. That's almost 19% of the league, which is crazy. And the last crazy stat and random stat of the afternoon. So a tiny little player by the name of Martin St. Louis. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't. I know Tom has definitely heard of him being a Ranger.
One of my favorites.
One of your favorites for sure. So Martin St. Louis made his NHL debut, played 1,134 games, retired, had his number retired by the Tampa Bay Lightning, waited out the Hall of Fame wait period, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So you might be asking, well, Brian, why are you talking about Martin St. Louis? We're talking about Patrick Marleau here. How is this relevant? Well, it's relevant because Martin St. Louis did all of this since Patrick Marleau has made his NHL debut to now. All of that has taken place in Martin St. Louis' life over the course of Patrick Marleau's entire NHL career. So I think it goes without saying, Patrick Marleau has been quite the figure in the NHL for the longest time. He has been a beacon of consistency for many, many years. Tom, what are your thoughts on Patrick Marleau and breaking this record?
It's longevity. And when you want to talk about longevity, Patrick Marleau played his first game when I was in 4th grade. I'm 33 years old right now. So you want to talk about a long time. That's been a long time. He was always a good player, always one that was talked about. I don't know if I'd ever consider him a superstar, but he was definitely a good player, definitely a top 6 guy, definitely an anchor on those San Jose teams there. And I guess one of the unfortunate parts about Patrick Marleau is that those guys could never just get the job done and win that Stanley Cup. They just always seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, whether it was Vancouver, whether it was Chicago, whether it was being upset by Anaheim, whether it was, even though they had a good run against Detroit initially, Detroit had beaten them out one year where they looked like they were going to take it too, And then the year they made it against Pittsburgh, everybody had them favored. To this day, I still don't know why. Pittsburgh caught fire that year, and I'm just going, after they beat the Rangers in the playoffs, I'm going, how the hell is anybody going to beat these guys? But irregardless, it's just a shame that he never could get his name on that cup. We went to Toronto. They were hoping that it would, him and Tavares there with the young kids and Matthews, Marner, and Nylander would turn that franchise around and finally break the drought. It didn't work out there. It didn't work out in Pittsburgh with Crosby last year. Now they're doing the same thing again with Jeff Carter. Just said he couldn't win one, but what Patrick Marleau has that Gordie Howe didn't have are 2 Olympic gold medals for Team Canada. And I think only Howe represented Canada once in the fake Summit Series in '74. But Marleau played in 2 Olympic games. He won 2 gold medals. And, that's nothing to be ashamed of, man. That's a big accomplishment to win a gold medal in hockey and back-to-back as well for your country, for Team Canada. All in all, man, cheers to Patrick Marleau. I'm talking like he's retired, but he's going to still keep playing. Will he stay around next year? Who knows? Maybe next year at the deadline, he'll get shipped somewhere and he'll finally win that Stanley Cup and ride off into the sunset. Kind of like Mark Recchi did in Boston. Of course, Recchi had won 2 prior, but still, hopefully, he stays in the league and maybe, just maybe, he'll get his name on that cup before it's all said and done.
He is certainly a player that deserves to get his name etched on the Stanley Cup at some point down the line, and it's a shame that he hasn't yet. He has played on some very good San Jose Sharks teams. On the contrary, he's also played on some very bad San Jose Sharks teams, especially when he first came into the league. And one big testament to his consistency as a player, I was reading a quote by Curtis Joseph, former goaltender who played for the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Detroit Red Wings, just to name a few teams. Curtis Joseph said it best when it comes to Patrick Marleau. He has never seen such a consistent skater and such a smooth and seamless skater in his entire playing career. And this is a guy that, not for nothing, played against guys like Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry, some of the best skaters to ever grace the NHL. And Patrick Marleau is at the top of that list for him. And it's true. Patrick Marleau has been one of the most consistent skaters that I have ever gotten a chance to watch. Just so smooth, never usually like the biggest superstar, but you notice when he was on the ice. You always knew he was around. He was always involved in plays, and he's always, been in that top 6 for the San Jose Sharks. He's always been in that leadership group, always been in that mix. So that being said, there's so much more that we could say about Patrick Marleau that can take up an entire video, but we certainly have other things that we need to talk about moving forward.
I got one more fun fact, actually. Now that I think about it, you brought Wayne Gretzky up. He's probably the last player left in the NHL who played against Wayne Gretzky, because Gretzky's last 2 years were his first 2. And he played against Jari Kurri, because Jari Kurri's last year was his first year.
It's very possible that him and Joe Thornton are the last 2 players.
That's right. That's right. I didn't think about that. That's right.
Joe Thornton, not for nothing, also saying like, yeah, I'm not going to go and attempt to break Patrick Marleau's record. He's just like, I'm hanging it up well before then. But that being said, cheers to Patrick Marleau. Wow. Like, holy moly. What a record to be broken. And who knows, maybe that's a record that may not be broken anytime soon. And congratulations to you. It's certainly a testament to your dedication to the game of hockey, your dedication to the NHL, and even dedication to the San Jose Sharks organization. And certainly I hope that by your career's end that you get your name on the Stanley Cup, because you are one of the most deserving players in the entire NHL to finally get it. So who knows? Maybe it'll finally happen. But let's move on for right now. Let's talk a little bit about some news around the NHL that has kind of occurred over the past week. It was a really, we riffed for a while about Patrick Marleau, but Tom, I got to admit, this was a slow NHL week. Do you agree?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Kind of like scrounging at the bottom of the pot here to pick some news out here. I mean, some interesting stuff since then, but interesting stuff popped up, but let's just say it's not a trade deadline show like last week.
Yeah, certainly. We had our hands full last week, and not for nothing. For those of our listeners from last week, my apologies for my audio issues last week. Hopefully that, didn't completely sully your listening experience. Hopefully it's better this week. So you can, just keep staring at my ugly face now, which is great. So one bit of news that came out of this week was in Columbus, where Max Domi has now been scratched for his 2nd straight game, including tonight, citing, quote, emotional play as of late. And if you've watched him over the past number of games, over the past 2 weeks, he has been playing very emotionally. He has been, very hungry to finally get on the scoring card and get into the win column. And he's been letting his emotions get the best of him on the ice. Based on just watching him, he's letting his demons kind of eat away at him. Tom, I know you have quite a bit that you want to say about what's going on with Max Domi right now. I know I've got things that I want to say as well, but I'm going to let you start first.
You know what, man? It's just it's the simple fact that John Tortorella can't coach this team anymore. And it happened in Tampa, and it happened in New York. When these guys get a little older, when they get a little more experienced, he tightens a leash and it doesn't work. It didn't work down in Tampa. Granted, he won that cup in 2004. He had Dave Andrewchuk kind of as a buffer. And he had young guys, but man, if you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning after they won that cup, in 2006, they barely made best place team again. They were a last place team again. Look at the same thing with the Rangers. He brought the Rangers along when Gabrick and Drury got hurt the 1 year. He brought the players along like Callahan, Dubinsky, and Stoll. But when that team finally got their taste of being a veteran team and a contending team and a winning team, he tightened the leash and the team sputtered out of control, and he ran Mary and Gabrick out of town for Derek Brassard. It's still a good deal, but I still hate that he ran Mary and Gabrick out of town. It still bothers me to this day. And it bothers me because here we are now with Max Domi. The same thing is happening. He's riding Domi hard. He's riding Laine hard. These guys aren't like kids anymore. They're getting a little bit older. The team's getting a little bit older. And I'm sorry. With a team that has Patrick Laine and Max Domi, there's no excuse for being in last place. They're under the Detroit Red Wings in the Central Division. So you know what this points to? If you have the talent like that over there, and you had some playoff success there over the past 2 years, and you have a little bit better talent now, and you can't put it together, who do you point the finger at? You pointed at Tortorella. It's a Tortorella blueprint. It's a Tortorella trend. These teams get older, they get more vet-like, and he tightens the leash, and they go and they sputter out of control. I think the emotional playing is because Tortorella's riding them for no good reason, and that's probably why. And you know what? If I was a Columbus fan right now, I'd be wanting John Tortorella out of there. Although from what we've been hearing, I think John Tortorella wants out of there himself anyway. So, but yeah, this is John Tortorella written all over it. If anybody thinks differently, please change my mind. Please change my mind.
Well, I will try to play devil's advocate on that regard, because I think as hard as a coach can ride a player, I think it's also based on the player to keep their emotions in check, while they're on the ice, while they're off the ice. Certainly there's going to be your issues here and there. That's for sure. There's going to be a lot of emotions that's thrown around based on, what the coach is doing. And me being a teacher, I understand what a coach is supposed to do. He's supposed to facilitate the play of the entire team. The coach is, in essence, the mirror of the rest of the group. Now, not for nothing, Max Domi is an emotional player by trade. He was an emotional player in Montreal, and he's always been since he was drafted. This is his third team since he's been drafted. I think part of it can be blamed on Max Domi at this point. And it also doesn't look good that his father, Ty Domi, is going to bat for him on Twitter right now, trying to help him out, because it's really not doing a lot of favors for him at the moment. And I think Max Domi needs to take a look in the mirror, understand what he needs to do on the ice to be successful, and remember what he did on the ice to be successful. He's not a good agitator. He's not a good agitator. I think there is that moment where Max Domi needs to look in the mirror and say, get your act together, do what you need to do on the ice, and move forward. Take this healthy scratch for the past 2 games as okay, you need to wake up, or else you're going to find your way onto a 4th team this offseason, which maybe might be the best thing for him, especially if John Tortorella is the problem over there. But we'll just have to see. But this is going to be a story that we kind of monitor, going forward. So we're going to see what happens. But moving right along to our next subject here. So the Vancouver Canucks have been in COVID protocol for the past 2.5 weeks now, and they just resumed play. And in their first game back, had to face the Toronto Maple Leafs, a pretty hot team, and they beat Toronto in overtime 3-2, continuing their hot stride before their COVID call. So, Tom, I'll ask you, do you think Vancouver might be for real? Do you think that this COVID protocol is going to damper their season? Do you feel like maybe the wheels come off sooner rather than later? What do you think?
You know what? They've kind of been Jekyll and Hyde all year, and I know I wrote home about them last summer in playoffs and whatnot. Unfortunately, with them, I just think that I think it's too little, too late with them right now. I don't think it's going to damper them. I don't think it's going to give them that extra boost. I think what you're going to see are the Vancouver Canucks you've been seeing all season. It's just, I think that they may have a chance to sniff in it, but right now with the way things are going with Montreal, with those 4, with that top 4 up there in Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Montreal, I think that's set in stone right now. I do. Do I think Vancouver could finish ahead of Calgary? Yeah. Do I think maybe they'll give them a scare? Maybe, but I just think really it's been a Jekyll and Hyde team up there in Vancouver all year, and I just don't see anything changing my mind right now about that.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, and I really hope for Vancouver's sake that they don't start a slide like the Devils did when they came back from COVID protocol, especially with the fact that they have all these games to make up in a short amount of time. I think this could be a rough go going forward for Vancouver, but if they have the willpower, if they're strong enough, maybe they come out on top of this. But it also doesn't help that Patrick Demko has been day-to-day. He's finally coming back tonight, and we'll just see. I think what is going to be pivotal for Vancouver's success is the success of Thatcher Demko in net, as well as Braden Holtby staying solid as the backup right now. He was solid in that OT win. He made some stellar saves in that Toronto matchup, but it needs to go across the board, and it needs to keep going forward as well. They do have a capable third string in Michael DiPietro, but It will be interesting to monitor going forward just to see if Vancouver can continue their hot streak that they were on before COVID protocol. But we've seen COVID protocol get the best of some teams. Hopefully it doesn't happen to them. And lastly, before we move on to our fan corner, the Memorial Cup has been canceled by the CHL, and the OHL just canceled their seasons today. Tom, what are your thoughts? Gut reactions on these?
It's a little perplexing with the Memorial Cup. I've never been a fan of the way the Memorial Cup was ran. I don't like the idea of a host team and 3 league winners. I just feel like if you're a host team, then all year you're hosting the Memorial Cup, so why are you even playing? So I always felt like that format should have been changed. It should have been kind of like a double elimination format. You should have had 3 teams. The first team that loses 2 it out, and then the remaining 2 play a best of 3, kind of like in that movie Youngblood for the Memorial Cup. But the thing is that, the Quebec League was opened and then, shut down and then opened back up, but then they canceled their playoffs. The WHL just canceled their playoffs as well. And now the OHL canceled the whole season. They never even started playing. And, I understand COVID protocol. I understand wanting to keep players safe. But what I don't understand is, here in the U.S., and I know our numbers haven't been great, but, we're getting better and better. I don't understand how, high school sports can go off here in Jersey. College sports can go off all over the country. Joe Schmo beer league hockey that I play in can operate fine. But, these kids who are one step away from dipping their foot in that NHL pot can't play. Granted, they've been loaned over to Europe, loaned to the AHL, loaned to this league, loaned to that league. But I just don't understand how you can, treat that as not an important thing and just, almost maybe ruin the dream of some of these kids. And some of these kids' careers could be ruined by not playing this junior season, Kids who maybe could have made their strides in NHL, but just needed one more good year, but couldn't get loaned anywhere. And now they're sitting back home in whether it's Barrie, Ontario, Swift Current, Red Deer, Alberta, Kelowna, British Columbia, Three Rivers, Quebec. You got kids now sitting home who potentially maybe this year, could have been their breakout year in a real year with playoffs and with everything. And now their careers may be ruined. I understand the Canadian government's very, very, very anal with this COVID stuff, but man, there could have been something done to salvage the season for the CHL and for the Memorial Cup, and so these kids could get a look for the draft next year. This is bad on the CHL, and this is bad on the Canadian government. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I usually try to take the optimistic twist on situations such as these, but it does feel like with cancellations of both the Memorial Cup and the OHL season, it just feels like a failure in leadership in this case. It feels like there could have been much more done to try to plan for this, especially since it's been no secret. COVID has been, something that everybody has been dealing with on a daily basis ever since the middle of March of 2020. There should have been something in place. There should have been, some kind of plan in place, even if that means that you do a bubble system, even if you do, something along those lines. The NHL was able to do it last year during the heart of COVID. What was necessarily stopping the OHL, for having their season this year? What was stopping the CHL from running their Memorial Cup in this case? So I feel like it's a failure in leadership. I think there could have been more that could have been done. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail in this case. So hopefully for those players that will not be reaping the benefit in playing in some of these crucial games for their development, hopefully they find a different avenue to continue their development elsewhere. Hopefully they find a different way to hone their skills before they possibly make that break into the NHL, if they can make their break into the NHL now. But we both know that there are players in there that if you're dedicated, you find a way. Life finds a way in this case. So hopefully these players can overcome this and can rise above it and be just fine coming out. But we're going to move on over now to our fan corners this week, where, as per usual, Tom is a Rangers fan, not necessarily to his detriment this week, and I am a Devils fan, much to my detriment this week. If you know, you know. And we're going to be talking about that quite a bit. So, Tom, go ahead. I will let you talk about how well the Rangers did against the Devils this week It's time for Tom's Rangers Realm. I'm going to sit in the corner and cry for a little bit. And Tom, you go have your day. Go on.
It's funny. I was at the game on Sunday afternoon, the fourth of these four, and they showed a video of the '06 series when the Devils swept the Rangers out of the playoffs. Now, obviously, this isn't the playoffs, but man, how ironic was it that the Rangers swept the fourth straight game from the Devils in this past week? So, why don't we just get right to it? Let's review it all. Game one was definitely the top dogs on the Rangers. The Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin show. Obviously, Igor with the shutout, but Zibanejad with the first goal, Panarin sniping on that second goal. Great game all around. Game two was the Panarin show part two, prominently featuring again. But in this game, we got some contributions from some defensemen who's been a little quiet this year. We got goals from Trouba and Lindgren. Vitaly Kravtsov got his first goal, but it wasn't official because Lindy Ruff decided to pull it back. Another shutout for Igor Shesterkin, 2 in a row. Kid's on fire, goalie of the future. And I'm not even going to say goalie of the future. The future is now for Igor. He's our starter. He's our legit number one. And hopefully he's that for the next 10 or so years. Obviously, he's a little bit older now. He's 20. I believe he's 23. Birthday boy, Pavel Buchnevich, 26 years young on Saturday, scored a hat trick. The Rangers, they were in cruise control until that third period. Up 4-0, moving along, they're having a nice little Saturday, and then they let the Devils right back in. 3 quick goals. Luckily, the last 2 empty net goals, the hat trick goal by Buchnevich and another empty netter by Kreider, salvaged that 6-3 victory. Obviously, Kreider wasn't real happy with his empty net goal because I think Quinn put him out there just to get him going, and I think Kreider wanted to legit score the goal, but it is what it is. It's an empty net goal that opened up to Game 4 on Sunday. I was there on Sunday. Was it interesting? Wasn't an interesting? Actually, it was an interesting game because it really was a game about the kids. The Devils, as we know, are one of the youngest teams in the league, and the Rangers kids took control of that game as well. Vitaly Kravtsov finally potted his first goal after that Kreider goal. This was an official goal for Kravtsov. Sorry, Lindy, you ain't calling this one back, buddy. Then, the second goal was Kravtsov. I'm sorry. The third goal was a vintage, a Lafreniere Quebec Major Junior League hockey goal. Heedle set him up, put the pass into his feet. Lafreniere kicked it ahead to his stick. Boom. Snapped it 5-hole. Alexis Lafreniere, has he been Calder Trophy material? Has he been the guy we wanted him to be this year? No, but every game he's showing more and more of the player he's going to be. And, by the time Panarin's out of here, at the end of that 6-year deal, whether they keep him or not, that's a question for that time. You got to sit there and you got to hope Lafreniere's the guy. And he's showing more and more that he can be. Give the kid a normal summer, give him a normal training camp next year, and you're going to really see a breakout star in Alexis Lafreniere. Capo Caco, great game again for him on Sunday. However, they blew the other 3 goal. They blew a 3-goal lead with all the positives going on. I'm sitting up there on Sunday, upstairs at the Rock, watching the game. 3-goal lead. I'm like, all right, this period ought to be easy. Devils potted one at the end of the second. I think of that line from the Mighty Ducks where the Dean says we'll give him 1. So I said, okay, friend of mine there was a Devil fan. We'll give him 1. Well, then we gave him 2, and then we gave him 3, and then all of a sudden it's 3-3. But then guess what? Like every other day in the world, it was somebody's birthday on Sunday, and somebody whose birthday it was came up big time. That birthday boy, Mika Zibanejad, potted that late power play goal, and then you had Ryan Strome with the empty netter because PK Subban tried to hold him down. I don't understand what he was thinking, but okay. But yeah, 4-game sweep against the Devils feels pretty good. That's all I'll say about that. The Rangers are within striking distance of the playoffs now. I don't know if Boston is going to be the team they catch. A lot of people are saying the Islanders are starting to fall a little bit, and it may be them and the Islanders who are neck and neck for that final spot. We have to see how these weeks go. We have to see how tonight goes. Just 3 more quick tidbits about the Rangers. Second-round draft pick Will Hewley signed his entry-level contract actually yesterday. He's been playing in Hartford because he can't play in the OHL, so he's been in Hartford. I don't exactly know what the agreement is between the OHL and the minor leagues, but he's been there. But now he signed a legit entry-level contract with the Rangers. I don't know what's going to happen next year with him because he's still 18. If the rules go back in place next year, will he be sent back to junior? Will he stay in Hartford? I don't know. Nils Lundqvist over there in Sweden, he had 2 goals in 5 games for his team Luleå over in Sweden. They were actually eliminated today. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with him now. Are they going to bring him over here, or are they just going to say, listen, stay in Sweden for the summer, get yourself in shape, we'll see you at training camp in September? I truly don't know what they're going to do. Like I said before, I would love to see him over here, But at the same time, we are running out of time in the season. If we were to bring him over, I don't even know if he'd be worth it at this point. But, man, he's another kid I'm real excited to see, to see him and Fox run a power play or see him and Fox run separate power play units. I'm really, really excited to see the kid. Really excited. One more guy I want to delve on is Morgan Barron down in Hartford. They said this kid's not a center. He's a left winger. He'll never make it at this level at center. Well, he's been playing center. He's been playing it well. 9 goals, 8 assists in 18 games, just under a point per game. And if he comes up and continues that pace up here, it's going to give them a rough decision to figure out what to do with Strome and with Hedel. And there's 2 other guys on that list, too, I'm thinking of, and Buchnevich and Trouba to a lesser extent. You have all these guys here now, but you have so many young guys in the pipeline. It's going to be a rough decision on whether they keep these guys around or not. I don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do with that either. We have to see when the time comes. One more thing I want to say about Jacob Trouba before I turn it over to you, Brian. Sunday was probably the best game he played as a Ranger. He was involved in every play. He was wrecking guys out there. That was the best I've seen Trouba play since he joined the Rangers. So now I'll turn it over to you for the view from the other side, I guess.
Welcome to the Pain Hour. My name is Brian, and this feels like AA for me all of a sudden. And, well, all right, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a really rough week for Devils fans. It was really, really rough. We're now second to last in the entire league. Not necessarily where I thought the Devils would be at this point. I'll be honest. I truly wonder where the Devils would be right now had they not had their COVID break. They were on a roll in the beginning of the season. They looked so good before the break, and they've never looked the same since. And so many delusional Devils fans are quick to say, like, oh, it's Nico. It's Nico. He's not a good captain. Shut up. Just actually shut up. Like, please, like, shut your mouth because you don't know what you're talking about. Other people are saying, like, well, it was Sammy Vatanen's fault because, like, he came in and, wrecked the chemistry. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but, like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that either. I mean, not for nothing. I like the way that Matt Tennyson was playing before we, banished him to the taxi squad in favor of Sammy Vatanen. Now look what's happening now. Sammy Vatanen is in Dallas, claimed off of waivers. So, it's been rough on all accounts. And, it's not fair to scapegoat guys. I've seen the same scapegoats all year. Damon Severson's trash. We need to get rid of him. No, because he was actually one of the best defensive players in the NHL before the COVID break. Statistically, you can actually go and look up that statistic. I dare anybody to look that up. It's true. He was actually getting Norris attention. Oh, PK Subban has paid way too much. We need to get rid of him. All right, he's paid way too much, but at the same time, he's one of the best defenders that the Devils have at the moment, and he's been defensively one of the best players for the Devils since coming back from the break. So you can't get rid of him either. And he's one of your only veteran leaders in that locker room right now. So the scapegoating needs to stop. And the scapegoating that I alluded to like a month ago with fans saying, I don't know if Lindy Ruff's the right person for this job. I don't know if Tom Fitzgerald knows what he's doing. Sit back and let both guys work. Like, please actually let them work. And I'm going to go back to that in a second. But for now, this is all what could have been with the Devils. We're in the present now. So I'm going to, climb off the cross, use the wood to build a bridge and get over it for right now. Because, I'm going to be a painful optimist at the moment. Overall, I still believe this team took a step forward this year. I know what a lot of people are saying, like, oh, he calls himself an optimist, yet he's talking about the Devils like the season's over. Stunning. But no, bear with me for a second on this one. I've said it before, and I'll say it louder for all the idiots in the back that I've talked to over the past week, and all the idiots who are not actually watching the games. Lindy Ruff and Tom Fitzgerald are the right guys for this rebuild. They have managed the cap perfectly right now. Though they're struggling in the win column, this young team is taking their bumps and bruises and they're taking steps forward. They were not taking those steps forward last year with John Hines. There was no fight in this team last year. I like the fight in the majority of the core. The core meaning Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, Ty Smith, and Mackenzie Blackwood. That's like your core four of the Devils right now. And I specifically really liked Jack Hughes' response and getting emotional in one of those Rangers games where he got a 10-minute misconduct. I really liked how he stepped up. for the team in that regard. Yeah, he got a little too emotional, but I prefer that emotion rather than being completely emotionless. This is a very different team from what John Hines coached. They fight and they continue to play hard despite being down. In those games where they were shut out, they were still fighting. They were still battling. Now, yes, this team is going to struggle. They're the second youngest team in the league, boasting the youngest forward group in the entire NHL. But proper rebuilds need to start somewhere. Why go out and get multiple veterans on one-year deals if they're not going to be here when the team hits their stride together? That was the Lou Lamoriello mentality. And if you don't believe me, watch the Islanders in the next 5 to 10 years. They'll be exactly where the Devils are right now. When you're in win now mode, like Lou Lamoriello mode, casting off all of your assets, it leaves you gutted for the next person in line. That's what happened to Ray Shero. Ray Shero had no assets to work with when he first got here. Not for nothing, Ray Shero did need to be fired, but look at what he left Tom Fitzgerald. He now has assets to work with and be able to move around to get better assets for this team now. That's how this team now has a player like Nolan Foote, who just made his NHL debut last game, which is exciting. Like, that's a really exciting thing. You also now have your first round pick, Alexander Holtz, who just signed his entry-level deal. And not for nothing, Tom Fitzgerald is learning from his mistakes in the Jesper Bratt deal because he made sure that Alexander Holtz was in the U.S. to sign this deal and to quarantine. So that way, maybe he can play, a couple games in the NHL. Realistically, he might get his, start in the AHL just to get him going, get used to the American game. But at the same time, these are all great things. These are all awesome things that Devils fans should be excited for. Don't think about this season. If you're in that win now mode right now, you're not thinking realistically. If you're thinking win now next year, you're also not thinking realistically. Tom Fitzgerald is going to make some interesting moves this offseason. I think there is going to be a big signing this offseason. Part of me is hoping for maybe a Dougie Hamilton. I think that's something that he does have up his sleeve, especially since he Tom Fitzgerald alluded to wanting to sign veteran defensemen and wanting to maybe get an older defense. And maybe that's that next step forward, especially in getting one of the hottest, defensemen in this upcoming free agency in Dougie Hamilton. Plus, he's still young enough that you can sign him to long-term, and it won't hurt you. Now, look, it's hard right now. It probably will be hard next year. But if this rebuild leads to constant playoff contention, I will gladly take the bumps and bruises now for the wins later. I think the rest of the Devils Nation needs to hear that. The rest of the Devils Army needs to hear that, and you need to be realistic about this. It's okay for your team to lose. I'm telling you, it is okay. And if you are not patient enough to watch this team and you're sick of losing, go jump on somebody else's bandwagon. Plain and simple. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. My rant is over now. It's time to get into happier thoughts in general, now that I had my therapy session in general. That was a rough week. Tom, I definitely owe you a beer the next time I see you. But we're going to move on to some general NHL and U.S. Hockey news in general. Tom, what's something that stuck out to you from this past week in the NHL?
Well, I do want to agree with one thing you just said about that rebuild. It's okay to lose now, and you're most definitely right about that. For the last 3 years with the Rangers, I was saying the same thing. Oh, they traded Hayes. Oh, they traded Zook. Oh, they're not going to make the playoffs. You're not making the playoffs so you can finish lower so you can get better. People don't understand the concept of it. I don't know why. I don't think they're hockey fans. I don't know what they are, but I guess they just don't understand the concept of having to build through the draft. That's the only way you win nowadays. But to go into something that has nothing to do with anything that I just said, Taylor Hall, man. I mean, he must have hated Buffalo and Arizona because he's been on fire since he put that Bruins jersey on, man. He has been on fire up there. Wow. And it kind of reminds me of Marian Hossa in a way after he was bolting for team to team from Atlanta, Pittsburgh to Detroit to Chicago. Obviously, he got to Chicago and they got the job done. And maybe Hall is that guy that Boston needs to make that run at that cup. I don't know. I still think Colorado is probably the favorite for the cup. but I don't think they're the obvious favorite. I think Boston could take it. I think a plethora of different teams could take it. And the one thing that maybe Boston has is the veteran experience. Now that was different than when Hossa went to Chicago because obviously they were a younger team. But wow, I guess he got his way, and he's really tearing it up there. He says he wants to stay up there for a while. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Taylor Hall is. I agree with you. He must have had some kind of vendetta against Buffalo and Arizona because wow, he is playing like he did when he was a New Jersey Devil. So good for him, man. I hope he makes his comeback. I'm not one of those Devils fans that will actively crap on Taylor Hall. He was exactly what the Devils needed for a time, and he was the very first Hart winner to wear a Devils uniform. So you know what? Good for you, dude. I hope you're out there to maybe even win a Stanley Cup with Boston this year. I mean, part of me hopes that Boston doesn't win it, but that's just me. But for those NHL fans that are looking for somebody with some really, really great potential, if you turn on a Florida game coming up, you get to see a very exciting goaltending prospect because Spencer Knight, as of tonight, made his NHL debut for Florida. Long awaited because he has been quite a hyped goalie prospect. If you got the chance to watch U.S. Juniors the past 2 years in a row, he has been a stud in net for them. And he made his NHL debut tonight. Currently, right now, it is in the middle of the first period between Florida and Columbus, currently with about 11 minutes left in the first. Spencer Knight, no goals allowed. He has 3 saves already. And Florida's up 2-0 thanks to Alexander Barkov and recently acquired Sam Bennett. Interesting note also for the Alexander Barkov goal. Recently acquired Nikita Gusev also assisted for that goal. So Florida's acquisitions are paying dividends right now. I think those were the right moves for Florida, and I think Florida is a very interesting team to keep an eye on rolling into the Stanley Cup playoffs in May. I think they're a team that could really, really surprise some people. Now, it's interesting that I brought up recently acquired because that segues perfectly into our question of the week. So our question of the week this week is this. Speaking of acquisitions and things like that, who is the one player who you wish your favorite team never traded away? And, like I said, I want you guys to join in a conversation down below. I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. But, Tom, I'm going to hit it over to you first. Who is the one player that you wish the Rangers never traded away?
Okay, this one, this is not one of my back wall ones. This one is, I guess, a little obvious. I was a little younger when it happened. But it's just a guy I felt like really could have helped them out in those late 90s and even in those post-Cup year 90s. And that guy is Doug Weight. Wish they never traded Doug Weight away. The guy was a legit center, legit top 6 guy. He had some seasons where he had some 100-point seasons. He was really a 20-goal guy, but he was more of a playmaker. But they traded him for Esa Tikkanen, and I have no ill vendetta against Esa Tikkanen. I loved Esa Tikkanen. One of my all-time favorites. Loved Esa Tikkanen. But I really feel like Neil Smith got hosed on that deal when he shipped off Doug Weight for Esa Tikkanen. I feel like Tikkanen was wanted out of Edmonton no matter what and would have found his way to New York in easier fashion. Easier fashion than having to give up Doug Weight. And, the Rangers' biggest problem, even in 94, was not having a center to play behind Messier. What people don't know, and I try to explain to them, and then they still tell me I'm wrong, is that in 1994, Alexei Kovalev was actually a career right winger, was playing center on the second line behind Messier because they couldn't get anybody else to do it. Sergei Nemchinov, I don't know, for whatever reason, it wasn't working out, and Craig McTavish wasn't working out. So they had Kovalev playing in that spot. The years after that trade, Peter Nedved came in 95. It didn't work. Messier ran him out of town. Ray Ferraro came in 96. It didn't work. Messier ran him out of town. Wayne Gretzky came in 97, and then, Messier left town. But besides my point, I feel like Doug Weight would have been perfect for that spot right there. He was a good young guy. They had a good young core. And, man, if Ronnie Francis never scored that goal against Mike Richter from center ice in 92, I really feel like Rangers history would have been different. I thought there would have been more cups in the 90s. No Mike Keenan and Stephon Matteau may have never happened, but it may have been for the better.
Yeah, and yeah, I can't disagree with your choice there. For me, a lot of Devils fans are quick to say like, oh, it's got to be Claude Lemieux. It's got to be Claude Lemieux. I wish they never traded away Claude Lemieux, but honestly, like, that's not a player that I think of when I would, for a player I wish the Devils never traded away. A guy that I think of was in the middle of that contention run from like 2000, from 2000 all the way up until like 2004. And that's Jason Arnott. I wish the Devils never traded away Jason Arnott. Now, granted, what did that Jason Arnott trade get you was, what the big question was. So back in 2002, in March 2002, the Devils traded away Jason Arnott, fan favorite Randy McKay, and a 2002 first-round pick that honestly went absolutely nowhere in exchange for Jamie Langenbrunner and Joe Nieuwendyk, two guys that were pivotal to the 2003 Stanley Cup win. And I don't know. I just feel like Jason Arnott had so much more to give the Devils, and I think he could have easily helped them get a Stanley Cup in 2003 the same way that Jamie Langenbrunner and Joe Nieuwendyk could have. And I mean, that's no knock on Jamie Langenbrunner. There's a reason why I own one of his jerseys with the captain's patch on it. I highly respect Jamie Langenbrunner. I just wish that Jason Arnott stuck around a little bit longer. He was just one of those Devils that was just so memorable to me, especially, that game winner to win the Stanley Cup against the Dallas Stars in 2000. Like, that is a memory that it will always be etched in my skull. And that's all Jason Arnott. Ironically, another person I thought of as a person I wish the Devils never traded away was Bill Guerin, a young Bill Guerin. And ironically, I had to think about it. I'm like, wait, what did we trade Bill Guerin away for? Oh, right. We traded him away for Jason Arnott, which was actually kind of crazy because I was just like, wait, what did we get for that? Yeah, we traded him to Edmonton in 1998 along with Valerie Zelepukin for Jason Arnott and Brian Muir. And yeah, Jason Arnott is just one of those guys to me that will always be one of my favorites, one of my favorite Devils. Definitely one of the jerseys that I'm currently missing in my arsenal of jerseys, which that is much to my fiance's chagrin that I say Jersey Army, but that's a story for a different day, to say the least. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think is the one player that you wish your favorite team never traded away? Make sure you comment down below and join the conversation there. And what are your thoughts on the rest of what we talked about? What are your thoughts on my idea of the Devils rebuild and situation going? What are your thoughts? I'm going to learn my direction soon. I did so well for the past couple weeks on this. What do you guys think of what Tom said about his Rangers and the playoff push going forward? And what are your thoughts on Patrick Marleau as well? We want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to join the conversation down below in the comments section of this YouTube video. And while you're there, if you could be so kind as to like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Anything helps us to grow, and we want to grow with you guys as well. And where else can you find us? Well, that is a very, very good question, because now we're rounding out the end of this episode of I-80 NHL. So you can also find us at i80sports.com. You can find all of our content there, not just NHL related. You can also find our MLS coverage there. All of your MLS previews are there. Definitely make sure you check them out. Bob and Alex worked really, really hard on that, so you got to make sure you check that out. Also, make sure to check out all of the NFL and college football content that has been coming down the pipeline because of this huge draft coming next week. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. And you definitely want to stick around with us going forward, because we're rolling into the Stanley Cup playoffs soon, and we're going to have a lot to talk about going forward. These slow weeks are going to be no more soon. They're going to be no more. But where else can you find us, you may ask? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because you can also follow us on Twitter at I80_SportsNHL. The road to 1,000 is on. Make sure that you join us there. But that's going to just about do it for us here at I80sportsNHL. I'm Brian. He's Tom. This has been another week in the NHL.